I'm Emily Salazar, and you're listening to KEDT's Community Focused Podcast. If you've been a longtime viewer of KEDT, you might remember The Territory, a film analysis show hosted by Dr. Bill Huie from Texas A&M University Corpus Christi, along with other leaders from the local film and arts community.
Welcome to The Territory, an exploration of independent film and video art.
I recently had the chance to revisit the show with Dr. Huie and his co-host for the later seasons, Media Studies professor Dr. Ethan Thompson. They looked back on the show 14 years later and even took another shot at analyzing a few short films, just like old times. Dr. Huie, tell me how you got started with the Territory series.
Okay, sure. It started really before me. In Houston, the Southwest Alternate Media Project initiated the TV series The Territory, and the purpose was exactly the same as ours, to showcase the work of independent film and video artists. And they had the same basic format with a panel, and there would be an introduction to a work, and then we'd screen it, and then we'd talk about it. And generally they were pretty short works, so you could get through maybe 5 or 6 in the course of a program. And like I said, they started this in Houston in the late 70s, but they sent some folks down to Corpus to persuade us that we needed to get on the bandwagon and develop our own Territory series. And they kind of twisted our arms and convinced it was really easy and fun. And so we fell for it. And I'm so glad we did, because we were on the air every year for like 21 years, I think. The earliest program was 1991, and Barbara Riley in the art department and I co-hosted that. And I think we did 5 one-hour programs that year, and that was kind of typical. We would get grant funding that would allow us to do anywhere from 3 to 5 shows a year, and so that's when it started. And Barbara and I were kind of a team there for maybe 9 or 10 years, and then Deborah Fullerton from the Art Museum came on board, and then in 2005 Ethan joined us. So by about 2007 we had a pretty good team of folks on the panel. We would receive a box full of video artworks from Swamp, and thank goodness they did that. We didn't have to go out and beat the bushes very much to find work to show. Anyway, we would curate each show. We had a bunch of stuff to choose from, and we'd sit down and look at it and talk about it and decide what we wanted to use. And that worked great, and we all had a good time doing it.
That was my favorite part, honestly, was like trying to figure out, you've got all these things that you liked. How do you put them together in a sense? Because you are presenting a program of different films. So how do you put those things together where there's some consistency or some kind of through line from them? And sometimes there's a more distinctive through line than others, you know. And then sometimes we would have a couple really long ones, and you just stick those together, and they're fine like they are. Yeah. But there was never any guidance. It was always us deciding what makes sense together and what do we want to share with people.
That's right, and it was so much fun. And sometimes we'd rack our brains, and we'd have films that we felt like we got to show these films that are so great, and yet they didn't have much to do with each other. So there are some episodes we call potpourri and titles like that.
Yeah, potpourri. Yes.
Just so we could show the best films.
I remember when I found out about the Territory, it was in Austin when I was at school in the 1990s, and they were doing a version of it there. And I saw my professors at UT on the Territory. So when I came here and found out there was one here, I was like, oh, this is amazing. I want to be a part of this. And so I was really excited. So I don't know how many different versions there were around, but it was the same kind of thing where in UT, like here, it was the professors come in, and thanks to the magic of, in our case, KEDT, we get transformed from being university professors to being, television personalities and get to do this TV show.
Yeah, it's been great fun. I think we were the only three, Houston, here, and Austin, that I know of.
I mean, the one thing that we did do that we got all these films when I was involved with it, as Bill was describing. Swamp would find all these short films from around the country, but we also, not only did we organize those into our own topical episodes, we also did our best to feature local filmmakers from Corpus when we could.
That's right, and that was your brainstorm. Once we started getting things like CC 7-day competition, we made it a point to get the winners on the show in person. We'd show their work and talk to them about it.
So that was always part of what we wanted to do as well, was to bring films from outside Corpus Christi, but then also to share, what people were doing locally with the audience as well. And of course, that's stuff that you wouldn't see if you were watching the Houston version or the Austin version of the show.
And I really need to put in a good shout out to Jeff Feltz, who is our wonderful stalwart producer for the whole run, all 21 years. And then who else was? Danny Conley was director and editor, and there were a couple of former students of mine, Josh DeFiore and John Frank, who ran cameras and a bunch of other tech stuff. Anyway, the people at the station here were absolutely essential and indispensable to the success of that show.
I had Dr. Huie and Dr. Thompson revisit an episode from 2007 titled Making Art and Making Decisions. They rewatched one of the featured short films, Ryan, an animated documentary directed by Chris Landreth about a once thriving Oscar-nominated animator, Ryan Larkin.
I guess we could go ahead and introduce our next film, which also is actually about an artist. The title of the film is Ryan, and it's a really unique combination of documentary and really, I think, avant-garde computer animation. So enjoy this film, Ryan.
I live in Toronto, a city in Canada where I see way too many shades of gray for my own good health. A few years ago, however, I became friends with a splash of color in the form of a slight, fragile gentleman from Montreal named Ryan Larkin.
First of all, just seeing yourselves so many years ago, what is that like?
My hair was thicker. I noticed that.
That's what I noticed. My hair's a whole different color.
Mine too.
We all look so young.
And the change from animation, really for that time, the animation was kind of extraordinary.
Yeah, this is one of the films that when we thought about coming in and recording this podcast that I thought of. It's one of the, to be honest with you, there's not that many films that I remember from. I wasn't doing this nearly as long as Bill. It was less than 10 years for me. But I remember this film, and I've showed it in other contexts before. And I really feel like, despite all the obvious, tremendous progressions and animation techniques since we did this, it still looks it's really good.
Yeah, I agree.
Creatively. It's about what it does creatively with animation.
Yeah, and it's still shocking the way he distorts and kind of disfigures these characters through animation. He, I guess, is suggesting that Ryan is only a fragment of what he used to be, literally. And then when Ryan is having a tantrum and throwing a real fit, he changes the animation of his head and face to all these jagged, strange-looking things. And so it's, I think it's daring and really amazing animation.
Yeah, I hope people will look for it and watch it because it is, and it's also, it pays attention to narrative structure too, right? And as we discuss, I don't know if I guess we'd kind of be ruining it if we talk about it too much in the podcast, but you're introduced to this character and you don't know everything about his real life. And so in addition to these creative animation techniques, there's the structure of the story and what is revealed about him too, right?
Yeah,
Makes it really compelling as well.
There are other people that were in his life that come in, and the filmmaker does interviews apparently with several other figures, important people in Ryan's life. And so you get an image of this guy. I never knew much about him. When they showed some of his early animation, I thought, oh, I might have seen that, because he was really famous at one point. And then the film ends in that very tragic scene of him on the sidewalk saying thank you very much. People drop change in his little cup. It's just amazing.
Whenever I was looking for the films on YouTube, that film, Ryan in particular, I was going through the comments and people were saying that just the visuals, it was so haunting, like they would see it. A lot of them said they saw it as a kid really late on Toronto TV, and they were looking for it for years and years. And so whenever they stumbled across the YouTube video in the comments, they were like, I've been looking for this. I've never gotten these images out of my mind. Like, I've always been wondering what that was that I saw so many years ago.
Well, that's the thing about this is when Bill started doing this, obviously, in most of the years that he was doing this, there was no such thing as YouTube or anything like it. So you really were dependent upon a show like The Territory to see short films like this, And now they're all out there, but the problem is knowing what it is you should be looking for, right? So there's still a role, I think, for programs like this to help curate all the vast amount of content that is out there for people to see, to know that they should spend their time watching it and then can talk about it like they do on YouTube.
Dr. Huie and Dr. Thompson rewatched another episode from 2007 titled Geopolitics in the Personal. We discussed a featured short film from the episode called Offside, directed by Guy Nativ and Edis Tadmer. The film is set at a tense border crossing, where a soccer match plays on a fallen radio and 4 men, 2 on either side of the border, aim their guns at each other in an otherwise silent standoff. So what do y'all think? Do you feel like there's anything you would add today?
I'm surprised that nobody really bored in on the irony of the radio broadcast in relation to them shooting each other.
It's offside, David. It's offside. It's a tragedy. It's an absolute tragedy in the stadium, what we've seen here. Oh, it's a tragedy. And nobody in this situation, look at the team. Nobody can win in a situation like this.
Because the radio guy was going, it's a tragedy, it's a tragedy. And at the moment of the shootout, there was this crowd applauding, and I think that was intended to sort of, stir the pot a little bit, underscore that, like, you think the game was a tragedy? How about this? This is a real tragedy.
Yeah, and here we are. Looking at this now, this is supposed to read as Israel and Palestine, I think, right?
I think so, yeah.
And to see this now when things are just so bad and contentious all around the world because of it, too, it's just, it still packs a punch, that's for sure.
It's creepy how prescient this was. It was an 2005 film, I think. So here we are 20 years later, only it's worse.
And how subject we are now to, in film, the action. I feel like you really got to give people a lot for them to, be interested. But this is very simple. It's close-ups, it's quick editing, but it shows how impactful all your audio is with your editing, with your visuals, how that can play together and still keep you on your toes.
Yeah, there's no fancy computer graphics in this at all, right? Like, that's another thing that we don't talk about, but we're I to talk about today is I think this could be a student film. You get your hands on some replica assault rifles or whatever. Like, there's no fancy special effects or anything like that. It's just a really well done short film. using just really good planning of shots and editing.
It's such a creative use of that audio. Like, I
Yeah,
wonder
yeah.
how they made the connection to use the two together, but it was very, very good. Both short films discussed here, Ryan and Offside, can be found on YouTube. A special thank you to Dr. Huie and Dr. Thompson for taking the time to revisit this KEDT classic. You have been listening to Community Focus, available wherever you stream your podcasts.